This week we talk about Spance, mindset, and a seller that did a seller finance deal for me that I still have a phenomenal relationship with after 10 years. I read stories to my kids every night. You guys remember the bedtime stories video we did? Link it up. But every night I read them stories. Sometimes they want me to read it in a different voice. Welcome to I Love Real Estate Stories, episode number 21, From the Trenches. That's the radio voice. So an interesting thing about the number 21, when I was 21 years old, I was actually a dock worker. We called ourselves dock slaves. This is me with my spants on, which is my shorts pants. One pant was long and one pant was short. And this was like a typical day of how I showed up to work.
By design? Were they spants by design?
They were spants by design. I drove a forklift and we loaded trucks, we loaded freight, and basically just worked my face off. And although I was a dock worker, and I found one of my pay stubs, I was making $11 an hour. At that time that I was a dock worker, I met somebody who introduced me to this, Rich Dad Poor Dad. They showed me that book, and I read that book, and although I was a dock worker physically, mentally I wasn't a dock worker anymore. I was actually, those concepts in that book had sunk into me, my paradigm had been shifted, and now I was starting to think about how I could purchase assets. So I was looking for opportunities all around me. And as I was looking for opportunities all around me, and I was really interested in real estate, there was actually a worker that worked with me who was a driver. So we would load freight for drivers, and they would show up and they would wait in the break room until their truck was loaded, and then they'd go on their routes. One of the drivers who I made pretty good friends with was named Benny. He was an older guy. I think he was like 60 years old at the time. And he had a bunch of rental properties. And that really intrigued me because, of course, I just read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So as I was talking to him that over the months and years even, he told me he had multiple different rental properties, some in California, some in Salt Lake. And he actually mentioned me once that he had one for sale. And I'm like, well, I'm interested. He had it listed for $88,000 with a real estate agent, and nobody was buying it. So it wasn't worth $88,000. So I went with them one Saturday afternoon. We drove in his truck over to this property, and he showed it to me, and it was kind of run down. It was vacant. He wanted to sell it. And I said, look, I'll buy it from you for $80,000, which was probably full market value, right, for that property. I had been talking to some other real estate investors who were kind of more experienced than I was at the time. And I said, hey, I'm interested in buying this property in Salt Lake for $80,000. What do you think? And those investors were like, are you kidding me? That's crazy. Why would you pay $80,000 for that house? You know, I can get you a much better deal than that. That's not a good deal. And I said, well, hang on a second. Well, what if I could get the seller to finance me at 0% interest? And they're like, whatever. No one will ever do that for you. In their mind, that was impossible. Flashback to the Benny story. Benny and I determined that I would pay $5,000 down and that he would finance me $75,000 for 12 years at 0% interest. That's right, 144 equal payments of $520.83 a month. Now, he was a friend of mine because we've been talking for a long time. He recognized that I was a young guy. He probably saw in me himself years ago, and he wanted to help me out. And that was about 11 years ago, right? Benny actually passed away in the meantime. He's actually no longer with us. But I actually recently went and talked to his wife, Mary, who I continue to still make those payments to every month. And I asked her about the situation. I asked her about, why Benny did that for me, why he sold it, and why he gave me a chance back then. So it was really interesting the stuff that she had to say. So check this out.
Why did he do that?
Oh, let's see, why did Benny do? I don't know. I mean, he liked it, you, and you was trying to get involved in something, and he just thought you'd be a good person to do business with, I guess. And he said he just wanted to dump it, just get rid of it.
He was a smart guy, and he recognized that nobody was buying that property for $80,000. And he saw in me an opportunity to get all of his money, and he didn't need the chunk of money, but he saw in me an opportunity to get full price for that property by just giving me terms. So he was a smart guy. I turned around and I put a tenant in that property. I remember I just didn't know what I was doing. I had this open house on a Saturday, and I showed a few people through there, and one guy, he was interested. He said, I want to move in. So $700 a month, and I didn't have any leases. What did I do? I was reading books like this. This was the actual book I was reading. And I found a lease in this book, and I printed it out, Xeroxed it, printed it out, and I filled out the lease right there on a Saturday. He paid me $300 cleaning deposit, because I didn't know, $700 a month, and he moved into that house. That was 10 years ago. He just barely moved out of the house. So I paid that property down for 10 years. I almost own it free and clear. And recently, I decided that I wanted to sell that property. So he moved out. They'd kind of trashed it. I didn't really do much fix up to it before then. It's trash. So I decided I wanted to gut it, fix it up, and resell it.
It was nothing.
Woo! we could only record this smell.
Filthy stuff.
I feel like a slumlord right now.
Look at that. La cucaracha. They're small guys, but they're there. I haven't been in this house really to see it in about, it's been years. Definitely needed some repair.
You guys might remember this property we actually featured in episode number 12 from the trenches. My project manager, while he was fixing this up, because we fixed it up to resell it, he had some people steal the staging equipment, which was a pretty funny story.
Almost steal.
Almost steal. He actually caught him. Go watch episode number 12 from the trenches. I actually resold that property this week for $151,000. So I bought it for $80, $5,000 down, paid it off over 11 years, and I've sold that property. So I want to tell you guys, when I was 21 years old, working on the dock, although I was there physically, mentally, I was not a dock worker. I was looking for opportunities. I was looking to have assets that would pay me continually, right? So since I was looking for those opportunities, I found one. So finding that opportunity, 12 years later or 11 years later now, I've got $151,000 from that opportunity. But I was only making $11 an hour on the dock, right? Well, you just got to look for opportunities around you. So it doesn't matter what your circumstances you're in right now. You can always change those circumstances. If you change this right here, if you think different about things, you can find opportunities to get yourself out of your current circumstances. Do you want me to wear this hat? Did that last video inspire you? I want to hear about it in the comments. That's the payment that I get for you for making those videos. And also, please share the video with anybody else you think might benefit. That's what helps grow our community here at I Love Real Estate Stories. Appreciate you.